for those who like horror and alien movies, these are your movies. Just
Yes.
buckle up and watch all of them.
I would recommend watching Alien Covenant too, which is an indirect sequel to Prometheus.
We are back with Aliens in America Part 4. There's an alien on board. Did you grow up watching the Alien movies, Madison?
I did not. I'm familiar with them just because I live in America, and now that I have seen them, I see how thoroughly their DNA has like infiltrated almost every like alien, sci-fi, marine game and TV show and movie ever.
Yeah, choice words, alien DNA infiltrated. A little bit of a spoiler there if you've never seen it. No, it's interesting to me that these movies took off, I guess, Mad Max and Road Warrior. The first one is, or Die Hard. The first one is so different from the ones that follow, at least in my eyes. It's impressive that they created a franchise out of what was just like a horrible monster on the ship.
Yeah, it makes me like wonder because I think Ridley Scott did the first one, correct?
Yeah, he did.
Like how much of the mythos he had in his head already, or if it was just like, hey, we created a monster movie that people liked, like, hey, let's fill it out now.
Yeah, I feel like I was taking specific note of that because I wanted to see between the first and second how many things change. And there is a good bit. In addition to giving the alien a name, the xenomorph, that came in the second one, not the first one. But also, in the first one, it's really clear this is the first non-human life form they're encountering. At least to me, it seemed really clear. The second one, Bill Paxton and the boys are all joking about having sex with our aliens. And they're like, that one was a male. And he's like, it's a Arcturian. It doesn't matter. I was like, okay, hold on. Between the end of the first one and the second one, apparently humans have already interacted with and been having sex with other alien species. So there is definitely some massive world building. And I want to say he stayed on as a consulting producer because I know he was involved with Alien 3 and Resurrection. And then, of course, was super hands on with Prometheus and what we've had afterwards. So much so he shut down Neil Blomkamp's Alien 5 he was going to make in order for Ridley Scott to come back and do his.
Yeah, I so the first one, Alien, I it was good. I think they're pushing against the limits of their time as far as technology and effects goes. The I think the face hugger, it's very scary to have when it first like melted through the guy's helmet or yeah, like what the hell?
Yeah,
Definitely played for horror and stuff. But I was like I don't even remember much of a soundtrack
there
in
was
it at
hardly any
all.
soundtrack. No,
It was like it was slow and it was quiet and the few moments of intensity like they hid the alien a lot.
a lot. Yeah, which was it was just a big, tall guy in a suit, obviously, and they used him where they could get him. But yeah, hit him a lot. A weird use of miniatures slash sets that they were just trying to play with here. And it being 79 and knowing that Star Wars was 77, it just makes everything look dull in comparison. Of the
Mm-hmm.
computer systems look old, everything's on DOS, everything is just like for future tech just looks so bad and old, which is whatever, a product of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was expecting to absolutely love this one because I know some of our friends who do. I didn't absolutely love it. I liked it. I get it. I know what it started, but it definitely isn't something that I like want to go back and revisit all the time and be like, oh, let's go back to Alien One.
Yeah. It was weird because like I knew Sigourney Weaver Ripley. I know that her character is important for the entirety of the series, but I didn't really feel like she was the main POV character. She just was the character that
No.
happened to survive.
Yeah. Main character by elimination. Yeah, I was expecting it to all be from her perspective, which we get in the second one, but the first one, it was just, yeah, she was just another person on the ship.
Yeah, it was funny that now that I've seen this, I can see how it shows up everywhere because even in like Avengers Infinity War, like I remember the scene where Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Spider Man are on the ship, and they're like, okay, do you have any ideas on how to deal with this guy? And Spider Man's like, have you guys ever seen this really old movie, Alien? And then they blow it out, the airlock, and then the same camera sequence of watching the alien twist and fade off into space as the ship proceeds away is. And so I was like, oh, okay. So it was just a shot for shot remake of what already has happened.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, that's a good point. It was one of those things of like growing up, you see it everywhere. Now that we've seen the movie, you see the tropes. The chest bursting scene is so scary, but also weird again because there's no music or anything. Everyone's
Mm-hmm.
just screaming, and it just felt like an odd direction of when it finally pops out, only one woman screams, everyone else just stares. But having grown up watching Spaceballs, there's the chest bursting scene in Spaceballs at the diner, where then the little xenomorph dances and does "Hello, my baby, hello, my darling" on the countertop. And so I knew the scene was coming, and I'm like, oh, maybe it's going to go dancing. And instead, it scurries off, where it's just like, hide the cables, hide the cords. We have to pull this thing across the room. Okay, off it goes.
Yeah.
Still horrifying with the chest bursting scene. But I took down time signatures for so much of the movie just to see how long it took to get everywhere. The face hugger first attaches to the crew member at 34 minutes and 27 seconds. So it's a long half hour of like, we're in space. We're in
Mm-hmm.
space. We're landing. Okay, long setup. At 35 minutes, we have Ripley say Chekhov's warning. If we open the hatch, we break containment, we could all die. I was like, there is your expository phrase for the movie.
Yeah.
And then at 55 minutes, we have the infected moment at the table during dinner with
Oh yeah.
5620 with it popping out of his chest. So we're talking about 56 minutes into this movie, we finally have the chest popping scene.
Yeah.
They knew they couldn't keep the alien in the ship for too long, and they didn't want to have giant battles with it. Because I think,
Yeah.
like you mentioned, every time the alien pops out of the shadows, we don't even see what happens. It's like, grr, okay, someone's dead, cut away. Okay. And it's a little Jaws, but it's really not that Jaws
Yeah.
because we just don't even know what's happening.
Yeah. Although, so I think this one maintains, I don't know, must be like a staple of the Alien universe franchise is characters doing stupid things.
Yeah.
Just like you've got characters who are supposed to be scientists, supposed to be smart, and they're just being dumbasses out there,
Yeah.
letting themselves get infected with shit and then sitting down for dinner and like I'm just like, I'm sorry, you guys are supposed to be scientists? How like make this make sense to me?
And the only one, it also just brings to mind that we should never trust a cyborg if I've learned anything through these movies.
Mhm.
Ash, played by the same actor who plays Bilbo Baggins, rest in peace,
Mhm.
is a bastard. Letting the thing live and keeping it alive on the ship, making sure no one kills it, then trying to kill Ripley at one point. We have this whole fight scene. I was like, we see more of her fighting the android Ash than we do the xenomorph, but okay. Yeah, it does make you wonder why there's so many dumb scientists, or if writers are just secretly mad they didn't get into STEM and they're like, you know what, I got you guys. Scientists are dumb.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in Alien, okay, so let's jump to Aliens. Okay, so this one is
Let's do
directed
it.
by James Cameron. I feel like this is one of those the evidence points that everything James Cameron touches just like turns to gold.
Yeah.
Because I think colloquially, this is the movie that made this into like a franchise
Yes.
because it had way
100%.
more heart, way more personality, much more of a story that was like, oh, okay, this is okay. And then Sigourney Weaver is clearly our POV character. When I was watching this, it is so crazy to me. Did you ever play Halo?
Oh yeah, I loved Halo.
Dude, this is the beginning of Halo.
100%. Yeah.
Like the Space Marines, the like they just didn't have like a Spartan super soldier. That was the only thing that they didn't have. But the whole like ancient alien technology thing that we're discovering in space, and there's an infection, and it's like there's an alien, and it's coming to get all of us, and the DNA in the Space Marines and their weaponry and the ships, everything was. I was like, oh, so this is like the foundation for what Halo built on.
Yeah. And Starship Troopers as a book had been around
Yes,
well
yeah,
before. But that said, Starship Troopers doesn't influence things the same way that Alien does for multiple
yeah,
reasons, obviously. The movie coming later, whatever else, and it being a satire. But I agree with you in that so much of what you and I have grown up with as far as movies and games has just all been based on Alien. Everything from,
yeah,
yeah, the tropes, the Bill Pullman character, the sergeant, the every little bit
yeah,
of the lesbian female with the really short hair who's like carrying a big
yeah,
gun and she's like, I don't need no man's help. I love Edge of Tomorrow, and Edge of Tomorrow just completely copies Alien 2 in like 10 different ways, including having Bill Paxton.
yeah. And even in Avatar, James Cameron's other thing, you've got like the
Yeah.
same set of characters. They're just like, hey, I've met you before, but I met you in a different movie.
Yeah, he brings back Sigourney. He's like, Ripley Jr. All right.
Yeah,
I will say this, after looking at James Cameron's filmography, I was confused because I knew he had done Terminator before this. And honestly, first Terminator to second Terminator does a similar jump as first Alien to Aliens. So I hadn't realized he had done this so quickly after Terminator and figured out the sequel game. So it's no wonder they greenlit Terminator 2 when they're like, oh, this guy makes a franchise by completely revitalizing things, changing who it's looking at, giving the story heart. I think the one thing I didn't love about this that I know is also in Terminator 2 that's also just a Spielbergian trope. Do we have to have the wild child character?
I know.
Maybe it's my allergy to kids. I don't always want a kid in there. Like, oh, now we have something real to fight for. There's a child involved. I'm like, adult lives matter.
Adult lives matter.
I just don't know if we needed the
Yeah.
little wild child.
Yeah, I don't know how much she like contributed to the story other than just being a little defenseless thing
Yeah.
that constantly needed to be saved. And I
Especially
guess
towards
I don't
the
know.
end.
Yeah, especially towards the end, maybe as a plot device to be like, oh, the Queen Xenomorph needed a foil, and that became Ripley, and we needed Ripley to become motherly so that
Mm,
she could be a foil to the Queen Xenomorph, who was also a mother, who was pumping out these little guys. Although, okay, so here's the thing. It felt like the Xenomorphs were a lot more fragile in this one than they were in the first one,
definitely.
because these guys with their space rifles are just tearing through them. And in the first one, it felt like that thing was indestructible.
Which I feel like throughout the movies it changes back and forth. We're not going to go there today, luckily. But Alien vs Predator, I feel like they're pretty damn hard to kill. Yeah, they were definitely more fragile on this one. Just since we're talking about alien movies now, they how did you feel about this one as far as the attack in the med bay and these things swarming and being more bug or infestation like? Do you feel like it took away from what the first one did at all, or was it still in line?
Maybe both. I think I think because the first one it was just like there's one xenomorph on the ship and it's indestructible and it's killing everyone
Yeah,
versus to this one where it's a little bit more of an infestation and they shred like paper. And that it's really scary to blow them up because then you've got acid everywhere. But
yeah,
so I feel like on the one hand it did cheapen it a little bit because it was like, oh, so these things as individuals aren't as hardy as I thought that they were. It's really the queen that's the problem. I kind of, although I will say that maybe this did something. You remember in obviously Halo was building off of Aliens. In the first Halo game, you just had the flood, and then in the second one, you had the grave mind, and it was like, oh, the grave mind is the actual problem.
yeah,
And so in this one, what I really liked was I liked that the xenomorphs were altering the environment so that there were like weird pods everywhere and like slime and goo everywhere and the humans weren't just being killed, they were like being grafted into whatever environment altering stuff the xenomorphs were doing. And it
yeah.
was like, oh, if okay, so we're just dealing with one xenomorph, but if you give the xenomorphs enough time, they're going to start altering the environment and develop more complexity than just the one guy.
Yeah. Like the dark version of you give a mouse a cookie. You give a xenomorph a
Yeah.
corpse and it's going to become part of the wall.
Yes.
That is a good point. And it makes me wonder what some more of the subtext was, and I think I'd have to watch it again and not for the first time to get more of it. Because now that you're mentioning the queen and taking over everything, I was like, is Jim Cameron a huge fan of The Irishman and the IRA? But that's a question for a different day. Yeah, it brings to mind of like there's a mixture of there's a mixture of human survival in the small group, but also the dangers of human expansion in that we came here, set up a colony, and look what we just tripped off. Oh my gosh, now this thing's going to eat us and just go all the way through the universe, destroying all humanity. The dangers of our own exploration and pride. I did have a couple issues, just not issues, but moments I shook my head. Mama Xenomorph takes an elevator. Weird choice. I understand they didn't want to show this thing crawling up the wall, but we just don't usually have the bad alien or the bad guy taking an elevator. It was a kind of a weird, confusing fight scene. There's explosions and electricity, and then somehow it gets on the ship, and then it's in the ship, and then it's like, okay, airlock round two. We're gonna do the
Yeah.
same thing as the first one, with that amazing line from Ripley when she gets in the little mech suit, the whatever, the Costco forklift now in 2100, and she's like, "Get away from her, you bitch."
Yeah.
Did it make you want to watch Aliens 3, or were you ready to move on after watching this one?
No, I was ready to move on. I as much as these like I'm enjoying like I enjoyed watching these movies just for their like kind of role in American cinema. I don't love them. They're not like
Same.
they're not movies that I want to just sit and keep watching and then I want to watch over and over again. And I don't know why that is, if it's just like they feel dated to me or I'm just bored about the story because it's just the same kind of story over and over again. I don't know. I don't know what it is because honestly, this made me want to go back and play through Halo again. Like it's
Your
making me
version
want to
of
go.
the Alien series.
Yeah, it's making me want to go back to the thing that was inspired based on this thing instead of like watching this thing. And so with that, that's why I texted you and I was like, "Hey, have you watched Alien versus Predator yet? Because I don't want to watch that. I want to watch Prometheus instead."
Yeah. No, I'm glad you texted because I had been thinking as we were watching, I was like, oh, I haven't seen any of the new ones. I wonder if they're better. So as soon as you texted, I said, great, cast off AVP. We're doing Prometheus.
Yeah.
On that note, before we move on, I think this must be like how some people love the Die Hards or Lethal Weapon or Transformers, all of them, or Fast and Furious. It must just be when someone gets locked in and they really enjoy it, especially if they enjoy
Yeah.
it with somebody else, they're down for whatever happens next. But
Yeah.
spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen these 20-plus-year-old movies, Aliens 3 is again weird kind of resurrection. The alien impregnates a clone of Ripley and she has the alien baby, and the alien is now like a xenomorph human and knows it's her mom. There's all kinds of weird shit going on.
Yeah, like what's up with these franchises and pregnancy horror, right?
I
Like
just love it.
these movies made by men that are just pregnancy horror films.
They're so scared of having a child with a stable or strong woman. They have to make movies about it.
Yeah.
What if it wasn't my kid? It was an alien.
Yeah.
AVP 2004, AVP Requiem. I want to say it's 2008. Yeah, no need to revisit them right now for us. I think
Yeah.
we're good. I think we're good. So let's go to Prometheus. Now, did you see this when it came out or a couple years?
No, I did not see this in theaters. I saw it when it was on TV later on.
Okay. This came out when I was on my Mormon mission.
Nice.
I just remember people seeing it and I was like, oh my gosh, there's a new alien movie, Prometheus. What's this all about? I remember seeing the
Yeah.
trailers and being really interested. And then hearing from them, oh, it was good. I don't know. Now having watched it, I'm like, wait, in our the year of someone's Lord 2024, it's not a bad movie. It's a good movie. Like I
Yeah.
know people weren't loving it in 2012, but I'm like, this is good.
Yeah, no. I think now that I've seen the other ones, I can understand why this might have been disappointing to some people because
Yeah.
the xenomorphs weren't really in it.
No,
And I'm cool with that.
it's
This
a
is a
good
movie
prep
about
movie.
it is because like I think the dangling thread in that first Alien movie was that I was really intrigued about was the pilot thing
Yeah.
that they found. And it's like clearly evidence of some kind of ancient alien civilization. And I'm like, how come we didn't explore that anymore? And that's what Prometheus is
Yeah.
that it's the humans have discovered in caves all across Earth, like the same constellation with ancient aliens kind of stuff, whatever. And it takes them to this planet in the star system, or this moon on this planet in the star system, where they essentially find the quote engineers, is what they call them. And they find their ship, and they find essentially what is an early. So we just get some history about what the xenomorph is, which is it's probably some kind of bioweapon that the engineers created, and it killed him.
Yeah. When the engineer is drinking out of the river at the very beginning with the black bile or whatever it is that makes
Mm-hmm.
him explode, that's my thing of like, oh, they just discovered on this planet, already live on the planet, and then they start putting it in containers and they're like, let's ship it wholesale to Earth and our other creations. It's a fun lore, and I love a good lore. I love someone who's able to write and tell a story like that. I was gonna say, as far as the actual writers for this movie, it's a good crew who step in to help. It's still going to be Ridley Scott directing, but
Mm-hmm.
you have Dan O'Bannon, who has done a handful of things. He wrote Blue Thunder, Return of the Living Dead, Invaders from Mars in the 80s, then goes on to Total Recall and Alien 3, Alien vs. Predator video games, Alien Resurrection, Alien vs. Predator the movie, Requiem, Prometheus, and then moves on to even more alien stuff. So he's like the alien guy. Then you've
Mm-hmm.
got John Spaeth, who did Doctor Strange, Passengers, helped write on Dune and Dune Part 2. Yeah, no lack of writing credits there. And then Damon Lindelof, who wrote
Yeah.
the Watchmen series and World War Z and Cowboys versus Aliens. Lost. He did a bunch on
Yeah.
Lost. Anyways, a good crew that really gives us a good lore and a backstory that I enjoyed all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love the idea that humans, or that these engineers billions of years ago were seeding life throughout the galaxy. And they're definitely not portrayed as like benign or even good kind of
Yeah.
figures. They're neither. And we don't really get an answer for like what they were doing or how they were doing it. We just get to see that they also made this bioweapon, that there's some kind of a sludge that will go through multiple stages until it becomes a xenomorph. Yeah, so I think this one, what I really liked was there was really good characterization in the crew of the Prometheus. Idris Elba, Benedict Wong, Charlize Theron, all did a really good job of just being really unique characters on the ship. Who's the? Oh, it's Numi
Numi
Rapace.
Rapace, yeah.
Rapace. Yeah, but here's where I think another criticism of this one that I would give is you've got people who are supposed to be scientists doing really dumb things,
Yeah.
just being really stupid, like contaminating things with their own presence. Like, I'm sorry, if I saw even a weird bug in the forest, I would give it a wide berth. I would not like come up close to it and be like, "Hey guy, hey little guy," and then reach out my hand to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not a scientist. And so for this scientist to be trapped in this control room in the spaceship overnight, and then there's like sludge evaporate or melting off of these like container pods, and then some kind of a weird snake like thing poking its head up, and he's just like, "Hey, look, I think it's friendly. I think it likes me." So stupid, so dumb, so colossally stupid that it almost breaks. It breaks some of the reality of the movie for me.
It just makes me wonder. I'm like, do we have to write them so stupid? Could there be no other way? And that's always my question. If we're talking about
Yeah.
creationism or creativity or anything to do with creating, there's always the question of like, if I can come up with a better option, then you didn't have to write it that way. And to your point, I rather liked Michael Fassbender as scary android poisoning people on the ship just to see what happens. He was in fuck
Yes.
around and
Yeah.
find out mode. He's like, I'm not a human. I'm fine. That does better than, yeah, giant egg, weird snake. I'm just going to go grab the vajayjay snake that just popped out of the sand. Like, come on. What are you
Yeah.
doing? And then it's
Yeah.
wrapped on his arm and he's like, oh, it's getting tighter. Now cut it. What? I just,
Yeah. But Michael Fassbender as crap, what was his name? It's not Walter. Walter is the next
uh,
version. David. Michael Fassbender as David, such a good job.
Oh,
Like, I feel like on some level he is our POV character, and you're not sure what side he's on ever. He's certainly more of the like, let's just press buttons and see what happens. He's
hmm.
misfrizzling it. He's like, let's get messy and make mistakes. And you almost feel so he takes some of that goo and he puts it in the drink of this guy on the ship who, might I say, there's no point in being needlessly cruel. Like, all of these people are being so needlessly cruel to their android friend
Yeah.
that it's like, no wonder he's going to turn on you guys. You're being dicks to him.
We should all take notes from this one. There's racist, there's going to be anti-android, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
anti-robotics folks in the future. But yeah, don't do it. Bad idea.
Yeah. So when OpenAI eventually releases David 1.0 with like a fully conscious robot body that looks like a human, catch me not being a jerk to it.
Catch me never letting it cook or hand me
No,
drinks or going on
no.
vacation with me.
Yeah. But the robot also, he also represents the hubris of mankind. Even though he isn't human, the creation of humans. He serves as a really good window into the humanity of the story because you've got these humans and they're trying to find their creators, the engineers, and when they do, they're disappointed by them. And then
Yeah.
I really like that line Fassbender's got, which is like he's talking with the humans. I can't remember what it is exactly, but they're like, "Oh yeah, we're just disappointed by discovering of these engineers, and we thought it would be more important than what it is." And he's like, "Can you imagine what it's like for me to have my creators say that?"
Yeah.
It's like, oh, interesting. Okay. And
Ouch.
then to have him have his own kind of hubris where he's interacting with the engineer and he's waking them up and he thinks that he can talk to it
Yeah.
and then it kills him.
Just rips him in half.
Yeah.
And then the engineer looks at the humans, its own creation, and goes, "Nah, I'm gonna knock you out. I'm gonna go send these things to Earth and kill everybody." It is quite an interesting cycle of the creators created us. Now they want to destroy us, but by creating us, we went to find them. We destroyed them, and in turn, the thing that would destroy us is now destroyed. It's a big confusing circle and cycle
Yeah,
where
it
by
is.
the end of
Yeah.
the movie, I'm kind of like, I need to look at more film discussions and see what other people have talked about and also watch it again of Numi Rapaz's Elizabeth Shaw. What is her character's symbolic role? She has an
Hmm.
alien C-section. The thing comes ripping out of her. Then she's running
Hmm.
around with Charlize Theron's Vickers. Vickers dies and is destroyed. Naomi's then fighting this engineer, and then he gets taken by the giant alien Ussy and then becomes the alien.
Yes.
It's just one of those things where I'm like, oh, I really would like to break it down again and be like, who's the role here in this big story and what does it mean?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I saw was that whatever black sludge, whatever the bioweapon is, it borrows from the DNA of the other creatures that it uses as hosts and then continues to evolve. And so ultimately the xenomorph is a mixture of engineer DNA because the alien Ossi impregnated it at the end of Prometheus. Or no, wait, first the black sludge was put into the man who then impregnated Elizabeth Shaw's character, who then had to have the alien C-section, so she gestated some amount of the xenomorph, and
Yeah.
then that creature, the alien Ossi, then impregnated itself into the engineer and then came out looking a little bit more xenomorph like and like it's not done yet.
Yeah.
It's not there. But whatever we end up getting as a xenomorph is a mixture of human DNA with engineer DNA with probably something else in there.
Which is a little fun for it to be a thematic element of
Yeah.
we've created our own destruction. Okay. Not bad.
Speaking
Yeah.
of one more colossally stupid thing.
Yes.
So you get this alien ship that's a partial ring, right? And it
Uh-huh.
falls out of the sky and it lands. And you're like, oh no, it's going to land on me and it's rolling. And so you're just going to run in a straight line and let this thing roll over the top of you because you don't have enough presence of mind to be like, maybe I should run to the right or the left.
Yeah,
In
nope.
fact, Elizabeth Shaw's character trips and rolls 3 times and gets out of the way of this thing.
Yeah.
And Vickers trips and just lets the thing eat her. She just gets munched by it.
It's one of those moments where sometimes I wonder with the writers, and I understand because having written a handful of little scripts, nothing major, there becomes a point where you just go, I don't know how to get my characters to where they have to be. Okay, this is bad, but we're just going to leave it here for now. And then
Mhm.
in the editing process, these people just never changed it. They were like, giant horseshoe falling downward. This person becomes tunnel visioned and forgets about the x-axis. It just is a little bit much. I was like, couldn't Charlize Theron have joined in the fight? Couldn't she have also been there with the engineer? Why did she have to die at that moment? I have no idea.
Yeah,
I don't think they do either.
would it have been better for her to have been an asshole the entire time and then at the end sacrificed herself in the fight with the engineer to
Yeah,
allow Elizabeth Shaw's character to get out of there?
that would have made more sense. Would have been a little better to watch.
Oh,
Oh, as Alien movies, these are the Alien movies.
they are the alien
But they're
movies.
more horror than they are mystery, at least in my mind. Other, I guess Prometheus has more of the mystery.
Yeah.
But for those who like horror and alien movies, these are your movies. Just
Yes.
buckle up and watch all of them.
I would recommend watching Alien Covenant too, which is an indirect sequel to Prometheus.
2017.
Yeah.
Still has Fassbender?
But he plays Walter, which is
Okay.
a different version of the same line of android.
Okay. Last note, because I almost forgot. Mr. Wayland shows up in Prometheus.
Mhm.
But do you know who plays him?
Guy
Under all those,
Pearce.
Guy Pearce, under all those prosthetics. Wild. I was like, could you not just cast an old guy?
Apparently not.
Okay. Was there not a lawsuit about like not offering this role to age appropriate people? Anyway,
I think there was a lot of ancillary like promotional material with this one
okay.
where Guy Pearce they actually filmed a lot of videos of like Guy Pearce giving a TED talk as Wayland in like the year 2025 or something.
Interesting. Okay. That makes more sense then.
Yeah, so there was some in-universe ancillary marketing material where Guy Pearce is his appropriate age and yeah.
Last note on this, because I think we have to call it out. You want to talk about fumbling the bag. To be the Alien movie series, to not have a video game like Halo, or see Halo and go, this is our chance. Let's have a big
Mhm.
company buy in. Okay, do this. All the Alien movie games have not been great. There's a couple, I think, from the early 2010s that were okay, but you really just lost the game for video games. And now VR is here. I'm like, how is 20th Century Studios not partnering with somebody else or putting out the most intense and scary alien game? I have no
Yeah.
idea.
I don't know, maybe we'll get it cuz Alien Romulus is supposed to come out later this year.
Yeah.
And I have no idea at what point that movie is set in the timeline. And I've even heard whispers of an Alien TV show being developed.
I
Um,
have heard about that. Yeah.
and so you never
Romulus.
know. No, you never know what like you putting extra energy in the system is going to create.
Yeah, Romulus comes out August 16th, 2024 in the US. 20th Century Studios back at it again. I think I just said Universal. We're going to cut that and say 20th Century Studios. Yeah, who knows? And the show would be good. You hope it has a good production value. But honestly, in watching the first one, my fiance was like, Stranger Things really took a little bit from this. I said, yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah,
Just a little bit. It's terrifying. It's scary. It's got dumb scientists. Who wouldn't love that? Us,
yeah,
apparently, sometimes. But we'll make sure we've had in the notes, we'll make sure that we've linked all these three movies and where to watch them. And if you haven't seen them, start with Alien, maybe jump quickly to Aliens or start there and just have a little like a YouTube rewatch in the first one.
yeah.
And definitely watch Prometheus. We'll be back with another episode of Aliens in America next week, as well as another interview. And we'll be talking about the Olympics soon. So keep your eyes peeled for those. And until then, watch good movies and TV.